Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. I'm back and I'm here with a new haircut. And today I want to talk about hypocrisy, especially within the American church, because I read a really good article today by Russel Moore on Christianity Today. And it's called, let me pull it up here. It's called Jerry Falwell Jr. Isn't a Hypocrite. Now, in case anyone doesn't know, Jerry Falwell Jr. is the son of Jerry Falwell Sr., who is a big mega church leader and a big leader in the religious right, as it's commonly called in the United States, especially in the 80s. And he ended up founding Liberty University, and his son, Jerry Falwell Jr., ended up becoming the head of Liberty University and kind of jumped into the national spotlight in 2016 as he endorsed Donald Trump and had him at Liberty and all these other types of things, right? And I'm not so much getting into that there. But I really liked this article, what Russel Moore had to say, because what ended up happening with Jerry Falwell Jr., if you don't know, was last year and kind of the year before that, he ended up having a lot of scandals drop at one time, a lot of involving sexual impropriety on the part of him and his wife. And, of course, this is what everyone loves when this happens in the United States, right? You have this outwardly religious leader, right, who will reprimand people or make students who go to Liberty sign this covenant about how they should carry themselves and do things, right? And of course, it ends up that he's an absolute hypocrite, right? So the most cynical people in the world are proven right, and the church is shamed in front of everyone. But Russell Moore here has a really interesting point, because if you noticed, his thing is he isn't a hypocrite. And that really caught me off guard when I first read that, right? Because naturally, as Christians, we should think that he is. But the interesting thing that Russell Moore does here is Russell Moore points out that Jerry Falwell this whole time was very true to his own convictions, because he never really is invested in Christianity as a religion, just Christianity as a social movement, right? Particularly in Falwell's case, as a conservative social movement. And he gets this from Falwell himself, because recently Vanity Fair, which is another magazine, released this huge thing, and I'll link both these articles in the description below. But he released this huge interview with Jerry Falwell and his wife and others who were connected to this scandal. And they pull out this quote from Falwell here, and Russell Moore kind of hones in on this, and I think he's exactly right too. It says, and this is Jerry Falwell Jr. saying, "Because of my last name, people think I'm a religious person, but I'm not. My goal was to make them realize I was not my dad." So he's kind of speaking about the end there, about it in the past, but he's referring to himself in the present as not a religious person. And here is this guy who's considered this head of the evangelical movement, and I don't really want to give him that title, because I think that's kind of a disservice to a lot of evangelicals to call him kind of a head of the movement, but certainly head of like a political faction within the movement. And so Russell Moore hones in on that, and he says, actually, he's not a hypocrite, right? Because the Christianity that he is invested in, that he actually cares about, is not one of a relationship with Jesus Christ or following him or seeking to do his will, right? It's kind of pushing out this conservative message that some parts of the church have to the culture, right? And getting the culture to shape themselves around that, because he thinks it's better than whatever the alternatives are, right? And in that way, he isn't a hypocrite. Now, of course, Russell Moore will go on to say, if he was a religious Christian, he's a huge hypocrite. And in some ways, he's a hypocrite now, because he ends up doing this behavior while saying it's inappropriate for his students to do it, right? And so Russell Moore is very good here, I think. And I think this is a good lesson for all of us. And I don't mean, when people will see the title of this video or see me talking about Jerry Falwell, they might think that this is just a conservative, quote unquote, problem or a conservative, quote unquote, issue, right? Where it's not. I actually think our own denomination, the Peace USA, is a very good counterweight example to this. I'll show you this image that I just pulled from the website that they have linked multiple times when it comes to justice, and I'll leave this in the description below, and you can look through that, and you'll see a lot of these are left-wing causes. I've also driven by the Louisville, Kentucky headquarters of the Peace USA, and they have flags out there supporting numerous what I would consider to be progressive or left-wing causes, right? And so the question goes, and I can speak to this personally, being a minister in this denomination, which I love very much, and knowing that there are many people within our own denomination who see the church more as a social organism of affecting progressive change in the world than they actually do of having a relationship with Jesus Christ. Right? I know them. Some of these people I work alongside. Some of them I went to school with, right? It's the same thing on the conservative side as the progressive side. And the point is for us as Christians to not let ourselves fall into that hypocrisy, or in some cases non-hypocrisy, because we fail to realize the point of the church in the first place is not a social movement, right? It's about teaching people the good news of Jesus Christ and having that change their hearts. And of course, that leads to change at a societal level. You can see the history of the West for an example of that. But that is not the goal of the church, right? And we can't get it confused. So that's what I wanted to say to you this Tuesday. It's a very cold Tuesday. I'm hoping that it warms up later this week. It looks like it might. So I will see you guys tomorrow for our Wednesday Bible study recap and a mailbag question on Thursday. Have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday. Peace out.